The warehouse loomed like a tombstone against the grey Detroit sky. Maya Rodriguez stood at the rusted gates, her daughter Lily's small hand gripping hers so tightly it hurt. The building looked dead, broken windows like empty eye sockets. Graffiti screaming across corroded metal walls, weeds pushing through concrete cracks with the patience of decades. "Mom, why would Uncle Frank leave us this?" Lily's voice was small, worried. Maya stared at the key in her other palm. Heavy brass, octagonal head, strange engravings she didn't recognize. 48 hours ago, she'd sat in that lawyer's office, mahogany desk, expensive suits, Frank's 3 children, Richard, Margaret, Dennis, waiting to claim their fortune. The lawyer had read the will slowly, the mansion, the investments, the cars, all going to Frank's children. Then he'd paused. "To my niece, Maya Rodriguez, I leave the warehouse on Graffiti Avenue and whatever lies within." Richard had laughed first, then Margaret. Even the lawyer looked embarrassed. Maya had felt her face burn. Another reminder she was the family failure, the single mom working 3 jobs, the one they whispered about at Christmas dinners she wasn't invited to. Now she stood at the gates with bolt cutters, borrowed from a neighbor. The padlock resisted, then gave. The warehouse door screamed as she forced it open. Metal scraping metal. Air rushed out motor oil, dust, and something else. Something metallic and sharp that made her nostrils flare. Inside, darkness swallowed her flashlight beam. She stepped forward carefully. Her foot hit something. Clink. The sound echoed through the vast space. Like coins dropping, like metal kissing metal. She swept the flashlight down. What I found in that warehouse didn't just change my life. It exposed a secret my uncle had been keeping for 40 years, and revealed why some family members would do anything to keep it buried. Let me take you back to the week before that warehouse door opened. Maya Rodriguez was 34 and exhausted in ways that coffee couldn't fix. 3 jobs, 3 alarm clocks, 3 different uniforms hanging on the back of her bedroom door, except it wasn't her bedroom. She slept on the couch so Lily could have the only bedroom in their cramped Highland Park apartment. Diner, waitress, overnight gas station clerk, weekend house cleaner. The math never quite worked. Rent, plus groceries, plus utilities, plus Lily's school supplies, equaled just slightly more than Maya earned. Every month, she had to choose what not to pay. This month, it was the electric bill. Final notice, red letters. Lily sat at their tiny kitchen table, doing homework by lamplight because the overhead fixture had burned out 2 weeks ago. Bulbs cost money. "Mum, can I get new sneakers? Mine have a hole." Maya looked at her daughter's shoes. Canvas worn through at the toe. Lily had covered the hole with duct tape and drawn a flower over it with marker. "Not this month, baby. Maybe next month." Lily nodded. She never complained, never asked twice. That killed Maya more than the exhaustion. Her phone buzzed, unknown number. She almost didn't answer usually debt collectors, but something made her pick up. "Miss Rodriguez, this is Chen and Associates. We're calling about the estate of Frank Hartman." Maya's breath caught. Uncle Frank, her father's older brother, the one who'd made a fortune in auto parts and forgotten the rest of the family existed. "He passed away last week. The will reading is tomorrow at 2 p.m. Have not 2 p.m. She'd gone to the lawyer's office in her nicest dress, 5 years old, too tight in the shoulders. The receptionist had looked at her like she'd walked in dirt. Uncle Frank's children sat in leather chairs. Richard, in a suit that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent. Margaret's jewellery catching the light. Dennis scrolling through his phone, bored. They'd inherited millions. She got a warehouse key, and their laughter. Now, standing in that darkness with her flashlight cutting through dust motes, Maya understood something. Uncle Frank hadn't forgotten her. He'd been watching, and whatever he'd hidden in this warehouse, he'd wanted her to find it. not his wealthy children who'd never struggled a day in their lives. Her. The family failure. The single mom everyone pitied. She swept the flashlight across the floor where that metallic clink had come from. And froze. Her flashlight beam landed on metal. Not coins. Ingots. Dozens of them scattered across the concrete floor like someone had dropped them in a hurry. Each one about the size of a brick. Dull silver-grey surface catching the light. Maya crouched down, picked one up with both hands. Heavy, impossibly heavy. She turned it over, stamped numbers on one side, a logo she didn't recognize, letters beneath, PT 99.95%. Her hands started shaking. Platinum. She set it down carefully, like it might explode, pulled out her phone. No signal this deep in the industrial zone, but she didn't need internet to recognize what she was holding. Her father had worked in auto manufacturing before the factories closed. He'd told her once about catalytic converters, about the precious metals inside them. Platinum was one of the most valuable metals on Earth. And there were dozens of ingots just lying here on the floor. "Mom?" Lily's voice echoed from the entrance. "Are you okay?" Maya forced herself to breathe. "Stay by the door, baby. I'll be right there." She swept the flashlight across the warehouse interior. The space was enormous, maybe 30,000 square feet, high ceiling supported by steel beams. But unlike the exterior, there was no trash. No graffiti. No sign that homeless people or vandals had ever been inside. Strange for an abandoned building in this neighborhood. Her beam caught something else. Industrial shelving running along the walls, some sections covered with tarps, and in the back was that a cage. Chain link fencing, creating a secure area within the larger space. She moved toward it, stepping carefully around the scattered platinum ingots. The cage door had a padlock, brand new, not rusted like everything outside. She pulled out the key ring the lawyer had given her. 3 keys, she realized now. She'd only used one for the main door. The second key fit the padlock perfectly. Inside the cage, wooden crates, stacked on pallets, metal drums, everything organized, labeled with dates from the 1,970 seconds and 80 seconds. She pried open the nearest crate with her fingers. More platinum ingots, carefully packed in foam, wrapped in wax paper, dozens more. Her legs felt weak. She sat down hard on the concrete floor. How much was here? Hundreds of pounds. Thousands. At current prices, she tried to do the math in her head, but couldn't focus. Millions of dollars. Had to be. She thought about Lily's shoes with the duct tape flower, the final notice electric bill, the landlord who'd threatened eviction 3 times this year. All of it could end, right now, with what was in this warehouse. But why? Why would Uncle Frank, wealthy, successful Uncle Frank, hide platinum in an abandoned warehouse? Why not a bank vault? Why not tell anyone? And why leave it to her? She stood up, explored deeper into the cage, found a small office area in the corner, metal desk, filing cabinet, everything covered in a thin layer of dust but surprisingly preserved. On the desk, a sealed envelope with her name written across it in Frank's handwriting. Her heart hammered as she picked it up. The envelope was thick, heavy, the flap sealed with red wax. She broke the seal, pulled out several pages of lined paper. "Maya, if you're reading this, you found the first layer. Good, you were always smarter than they gave you credit for." Her eyes burned. "First layer? What you've discovered is legitimate, purchased and stored legally over 40 years. It's yours to do with as you see fit. The platinum alone should be worth $8 to $10 million at current market rates. 10 million. The number didn't feel real. But there's more. The platinum is valuable, yes, but it's not the real treasure." Maya's hands trembled as she kept reading. For that, you need to look beneath the surface. Literally, the warehouse has a basement level. Find the access panel in the northwest corner. Inside, you'll find what I've truly been protecting. A basement? Trust no one from the family with this information. They've been looking for this warehouse for years, especially Richard. He knows I was hiding something, but he never found it. Richard, the oldest son, the corporate lawyer who'd laughed at her. You have one advantage. They think you're nobody. Use it. Uncle Frank. Maya read the letter 3 times, her pulse racing with each pass. She looked around the warehouse with new understanding. This wasn't just valuable. This was dangerous. Frank's children had been searching for this place, and now she'd inherited it. She folded the letter, shoved it in her jacket pocket, took photos of the platinum ingots with her phone, then carefully locked the cage and headed back toward the entrance. Lily was sitting on the floor just inside the doorway, drawing in her notebook. She looked up when Maya approached. "Can we go home? It's cold." "Yeah, baby, let's go." As they walked to the truck Maya had borrowed from her friend Carmen, she noticed something that made her stomach drop. Fresh tire tracks in the dirt, leading right up to the warehouse fence. She'd been so focused on getting inside that she hadn't looked, but now, in the fading afternoon light, she could see them clearly. Someone else had been here, recently, watching. "Mom, you look scared." Maya forced a smile. "Just tired, sweetie." But as she started the truck and pulled away, she checked the rearview mirror 3 times. No one following. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that Uncle Frank's warning was already coming true. They think you're nobody. But somebody knew she'd inherited this warehouse. And if Richard had been searching for it for years, he wouldn't stop now just because the will had been read. That night, after Lily was asleep, Maya sat at her kitchen table with the letter spread in front of her. A basement level. More treasure. Real treasure, Frank had written. She pulled up satellite images of the warehouse on her phone. The building's footprint was huge, but there was no obvious indication of an underground level, which meant it was hidden, deliberately. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, then did. "Maya." The voice was smooth, familiar. "It's Richard. We need to talk about Uncle Frank's warehouse." Her blood turned cold. "How did you get my number?" "That's not important. What's important is that warehouse. I'm prepared to make you a very generous offer. Say $50,000? Cash. No questions asked. 50,000. A year ago, that would have been life-changing. Now, knowing what was inside, it was an insult. I'm not interested in selling." "Maya," his voice hardened, "you don't understand what you're dealing with. That warehouse there are complications, legal issues. It would be better for everyone if you just took the money and walked away." "Good night, Richard." She hung up, sat there shaking. He knew. Somehow, he knew there was something valuable inside. And he was already trying to take it from her. Maya didn't sleep that night. Every car that passed her apartment building made her jump. Every footstep in the hallway made her heart race. Richard's voice kept replaying in her head. Legal issues, complications. What did he know that she didn't? At 3 a.m., she gave up on sleep, made coffee, sat at her kitchen table with Frank's letter and started researching on her phone. Platinum storage, industrial metals, legal ownership of inherited property. Everything she found said the same thing. If Frank legally purchased and stored the platinum, it was now hers. No complications, no legal issues. So why was Richard lying? She thought about his offer. 50,000 for a warehouse containing 8 million in platinum. He wasn't trying to buy property. He was trying to buy her silence. Which meant he knew about the basement. The real treasure, Frank had written. By dawn, Maya had made her decision. She called Carmen. "Girl, it's 6 in the morning." Carmen's voice was thick with sleep. "Can you watch Lily today? I need to go back to the warehouse." A pause. "Maya, what's going on?" "I'll explain later. Please." "Fine. But you're buying me breakfast for a month." Maya dropped Lily at Carmen's apartment before school, kissed her daughter's forehead, tried not to let her fear show. "Will you be home for dinner?" Lily asked. "Absolutely, baby." She drove to the warehouse as the sun rose. This time, she came prepared. Heavy-duty flashlight, crowbar, work gloves, pepper spray in her pocket, and her phone fully charged, set to record video. If something happened to her, there'd be evidence. The warehouse looked different in morning light, less menacing, just sad and forgotten. She checked for fresh tire tracks before entering. None. Inside, the platinum ingots still lay scattered where she'd found them, untouched. She locked the main door behind her, then headed straight for the northwest corner. It took 20 minutes of searching to find it. A section of concrete floor that sounded different when she tapped it, hollow. She swept away decades of dust and debris. Found the outline of a hatch maybe 4 feet square. No visible handle, no obvious way to open it. She ran her hands along the edges, feeling for a release mechanism. There, a recessed indent. She pressed it. A click echoed through the warehouse. The hatch rose an inch, pneumatic hiss of air pressure equalizing. Cold air rushed up from below. It smelled different from the warehouse, cleaner, drier. Climate controlled. Someone had been maintaining whatever was down there. Maya's hands shook as she pulled the hatch fully open. Below, a metal ladder descending into darkness. 20 feet down, maybe more. She clipped her flashlight to her belt, started climbing. The rungs were cold under her hands. Her breath echoed in the narrow shaft. At the bottom, her feet hit concrete. She was in a tunnel, maybe 8 feet high, extending in both directions. Industrial lighting ran along the ceiling. She found a switch panel on the wall. Flipped it. Fluorescent lights stuttered to life. The tunnel led to a room, and when Maya stepped inside, she forgot how to breathe. Art. The walls were lined with paintings in custom cases, sculptures on pedestals under protective glass, flat files that probably held drawings and prints. She moved closer to the nearest painting. A landscape, European countryside, soft colours, masterful brushwork. The signature in the corner made her knees weak. C. Pissarro. She'd taken one art history class in community college before dropping out. She knew that name. Camille Pissarro, French impressionist, dead for over a century. If this was real, she pulled out her phone with trembling hands, photographed the signature, searched. The results loaded slowly in the poor signal. Then confirmed what she already suspected. Pissarro paintings sold for millions, sometimes tens of millions. She moved through the room like she was dreaming. Monet, water lilies behind glass. Degas, ballet dancers in soft pastels. Cézanne, still life with apples that looked good enough to eat. Each one carefully preserved, each one labelled with acquisition dates from the 1970 seconds and 80 seconds. On a desk in the corner, she found a leather-bound ledger, Frank's handwriting, page after page of entries. Painting descriptions, purchase dates, prices paid, authentication certificates. She counted. 47 pieces total. At the bottom of the last page, Frank had written in different ink more recent. Combined estimated value, 2019, $20 million. 20 million, plus the platinum upstairs. She was standing in $30 million of hidden treasure. Maya sat down hard in the desk chair, her vision blurred with tears she didn't understand. This wasn't possible. People like her didn't inherit fortunes. They inherited debt and struggle and disappointment. She thought about Lily's shoes, about the electric bill, about working 3 jobs and still choosing which bills not to pay every month. All of it could end, right now. They could have a real home. Lily could go to any college she wanted. Maya could finally stop being so tired. But Uncle Frank's words echoed, "It's not the real treasure." What did that mean? She opened the desk drawers, searching for more clues. Found a separate folder marked Provenance. Inside, detailed histories of each piece, where Frank purchased them, from whom. She started reading. Most were bought from private European collectors in the late 1972 and early 1980. All transactions appeared legitimate. Receipts, authentication documents, legal transfers. But then she found something else. A typed letter, dated 1979, from Frank to himself. She read it slowly, her stomach tightening with each line. "I've spent the last year acquiring these pieces from families who needed to sell quickly, quietly. All legal, all above board, but I know the truth. Some of these works were looted during World War II, returned to families, who then sold them out of desperation." Maya's hands gripped the paper. Others were sold by heirs who didn't understand their value. "I've made a fortune on their ignorance and their pain. I told myself I was preserving them, that I was doing these families a favor by offering cash when they needed it." She kept reading. "But I know what I am, a vulture, feeding on tragedy. I can't return them without admitting what I've done, without destroying my reputation, so I'll hide them. And someday, someone else can decide what to do with them, someone with a clearer conscience than mine." The letter fell from Maya's hands. She understood now. Frank hadn't left her wealth. He'd left her a moral test. These paintings, they were legally his, legally hers now. But they'd been bought from desperate families, people who'd survived the Holocaust and its aftermath, people who'd fled wars, people who'd sold priceless heritage for pennies because they had no choice. People like her. She thought about what it would feel like to sell something precious because you needed rent money, because your daughter needed shoes. She'd done it. She'd sold her mother's wedding ring last year to cover the security deposit on their apartment. Frank had been the person who bought from desperate people, knowing he was getting a deal they'd regret forever. And now she had to decide, keep the fortune or return it to the families who'd lost it. She was so lost in thought, she didn't hear the footsteps above until they were directly overhead. Heavy boots, moving purposefully. Toward the northwest corner. Maya's heart stopped. Someone else was in the warehouse. She quickly closed the ledger, turned off her flashlight. The footsteps stopped right over the hatch. Then, a voice, muffled but clear. "I know you're down there, Maya." "Richard." "Uncle Frank's little secret. You think you're the first one to look for it? I've been searching for years." 2. Maya didn't breathe. "That art belongs to the family," Richard continued. His voice echoed down the shaft. "Frank had no right to keep it from us." Silence. "I'll make this simple. You give me access, and I'll cut you in. 20%, that's $4 million for doing nothing. Or I can make things very difficult for you." Maya's fear crystallized into rage. "I know where you live, Maya. I know where Lily goes to school. I know your one paycheck from eviction." Maya, Casey, End 5. The threat hung in the air like poison. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." 5 minutes of silence. Then his footsteps retreated. The warehouse door rolled open, closed. Maya waited another 20 minutes before climbing back up, her whole body shaking. The warehouse was empty, but everything had changed. Richard hadn't just threatened her. He'd threatened Lily. And Maya suddenly understood something Frank had known all along. This wasn't about treasure. It was about power. And Richard would do anything, to keep this collection from exposing what Frank really was, what their family really was. Because if the truth came out about how these paintings were acquired, it wouldn't just destroy Frank's reputation. It would destroy the Hartman family legacy, and Richard couldn't let that happen. Maya drove straight to Carmen's apartment. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking on the steering wheel. Carmen took one look at her face and pulled her inside. Lily's at school. Talk. Maya told her everything. The platinum, the art, Frank's confession, Richard's threats. Carmen listened without interrupting. When Maya finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Girl, you need to go to the police. And tell them what? Richard threatened me, but he didn't do anything illegal yet. And the moment I report this, everyone will know about the warehouse. So? So Richard will find a way to take it, challenge the will, claim Frank was incompetent. He's got money for lawyers. I don't. Carmen crossed her arms. What about the art, if it was bought from desperate families? Legally bought, Maya interrupted. Frank kept all the documentation, receipts, authentication. It's mine now. But it shouldn't be. The words hung between them. Maya looked away. I know. Then you know what you have to do. I need that money, Carmen. Lily needs it. Do you know what $30 million could... I know what guilt feels like, Carmen said quietly. I know what it's like to wake up every morning knowing you did something wrong, even if nobody else knows, even if it was legal. That kind of weight, it'll crush you. Maya's eyes burned with tears. I don't know if I'm strong enough to give it up. That's why your uncle left it to you, because you are. That afternoon, Maya made a decision that terrified her. She needed expert help, someone who could authenticate the art, someone who could tell her the truth about what she'd inherited. She remembered a professor from her brief time in community college, Dr. Helen Moss, art history. The only teacher who'd been kind when Maya dropped out. Maya sent an email from a burner account, attached photos of 3 paintings, asked for authentication opinions. Dr. Moss responded within 2 hours. Where did you get these images? These pieces have been missing for decades. If authentic, they're museum quality. We need to talk, in person, privately. They met at a coffee shop 40 miles outside Detroit, far from anyone who might recognize either of them. Dr. Moss was older now, grey hair, reading glasses on a chain, but her eyes were still sharp. Maya Rodriguez, she said, recognition flickering across her face. I thought that might be you. Show me everything. Maya pulled out her phone, showed her the photos, the ledger entries, Frank's confession letter. Dr. Moss's expression grew more serious with each image. My God, she whispered. This is one of the largest private collections discovered in decades. Is it legal? Maya asked. Can I keep it? Dr. Moss removed her glasses, rubbed her eyes. Legally, if Frank purchased these pieces through legitimate transactions, they're part of his estate, which means they're yours now. Relief flooded through Maya. But, Dr. Moss continued, and Maya's heart sank. Several of these pieces have been on missing art registries since the 1972nd and 82nd museums. International recovery organizations. They've been searching for them. But Frank bought them legally. From people who may not have understood their value. From families who were desperate. Dr. Moss leaned forward. Maya, do you know what happened to art looted during World War II? Some of it was returned to families. Yes, but many of those families were refugees, survivors. They had nothing, so they sold what was returned to them, often for a fraction of its value. People like your uncle, she paused. They weren't criminals, but they profited from tragedy. Maya thought about Frank's letter. A vulture feeding on tragedy. What should I do? Doctor? Moss was quiet for a moment. Your best option is to work with legitimate authorities. The FBI has an art crime team. They can authenticate everything, verify provenance, protect you legally. But the moment you report this, you lose control. It becomes a federal investigation, and your cousin Richard, he'll know. Maya's stomach twisted. What if I sell it quietly? Dr. Moss shook her head. These pieces are too recognizable. Try to sell even one, and you'll trigger alarms across the international art market. You could face criminal charges. So I'm trapped. You're at a crossroads, Dr. Moss corrected gently. You can keep it and live with that choice, or you can do the hard thing. Maya left the coffee shop feeling more confused than ever. On the drive home, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Miss Rodriguez? This is James Cortez. I'm a public defender. I understand you may need legal assistance regarding a will challenge. Maya's blood went cold. Who told you that? Your cousin Richard filed paperwork this morning. He's challenging your uncle's will on grounds of mental incompetence. The world tilted. He's claiming Frank wasn't in his right mind when he changed the will, that he was influenced by outside parties. Cortez paused. Meaning you. That's not true. I hadn't seen Frank in 15 years. Can you prove that? Any witnesses? Documentation? She couldn't. Richard's also requesting the court freeze all estate assets, including any property housed in estate-owned warehouses. Maya pulled over. She couldn't drive and process this at the same time. If he succeeds, Cortez continued, you lose access to everything before you even have it. The hearing is in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I can't afford a lawyer. Oh, that's why I'm calling. I handle pro bono cases for exactly this kind of situation. But I need to be honest, Richard has resources. This will be difficult. Maya wanted to scream. After hanging up, she sat in her parked car and cried. Real, ugly sobs that made her chest hurt. Richard was going to take it. All of it. And she'd be back where she started. Broke. Exhausted. Working 3 jobs for nothing. That night, Carmen came over after Lily was asleep. She brought wine and takeout. You look like hell, she said. Richard's challenging the will. Carmen swore. Can he do that? His lawyers think so. They sat in silence, eating Chinese food neither of them tasted. What if I just gave him what he wants? Maya said quietly. Take his offer. 4 million. Walk away. Is that what you want? I want Lily to have new shoes without feeling guilty. I want to sleep through the night. I want to stop drowning. Carmen reached across and took her hand. Then, take the deal. No one would blame you. Maya stared at her wine glass. 4 million. It was still more money than she'd ever dreamed of. But it meant letting Richard win. It meant 30 million in art stayed hidden. Families who'd lost their heritage would never know it still existed. And Frank's test, his final attempt at redemption, would fail. What would you do? Maya asked. Carmen was quiet for a long time. Honestly, I don't know, but I know you, and I know you won't be able to live with yourself if you give up now. The next morning, Maya called Cortez back. I'm not taking Richard's deal. We fight. Understood. I'll need you to document everything about the warehouse, every detail. We need to prove Frank was competent and had good reason to leave it specifically to you. Maya thought about the surveillance system she'd noticed in the warehouse, the camera with the red light. What if I had video evidence of Frank visiting the warehouse regularly, moving around easily, clearly in full mental capacity? Cortez's voice sharpened with interest. That would change everything. Maya returned to the warehouse that afternoon. Found the security office near the back entrance, monitors, DVR system, all still powered. She accessed the footage, scrolling back through months. And found gold. Frank visiting regularly up until 2 weeks before his death. Walking through the warehouse, checking the platinum, descending into the basement, all with clear purpose and awareness. But there was more. Richard. breaking in 3 separate times over the past 2 years, searching the warehouse, trying to open the caged area with bolt cutters, attempting to find the basement hatch. This was proof. Richard had been lying about everything. He knew about the warehouse, had been trying to steal its contents, and was now trying to use the legal system to finish what he'd started. Maya copied everything to a hard drive. This changed the game completely. She was about to leave when she noticed something else on the monitors. Live feed. Current. Someone was approaching the warehouse. Right now, black SUV, parking outside. Richard stepping out. But he wasn't alone this time. 2 men with him, both large, both carrying bolt cutters and crowbars. They weren't here to look anymore. They were here to take what Richard believed was his, and Maya was trapped inside. She watched on the security monitors as they forced the main door open. Her truck was parked outside. They knew she was here. Maya grabbed the hard drive, shoved it in her backpack, then made a split-second decision. She ran to the basement hatch, descended quickly, pulled it closed above her. Through the concrete, she heard Richard's voice. Find her. Footsteps spreading across the warehouse floor. Maya's heart hammered. She looked around the art vault. There had to be another way out. And then she saw it. At the far end of the chamber, a narrow tunnel marked emergency, egress 1979. She followed it. Low ceiling, tight walls, sloping gradually upward. It emerged 200 yards away, behind an abandoned factory building. She pushed through the false wall of corrugated metal. Outside, safe. But her truck was still at the warehouse, boxed in by Richard's SUV. She was on foot in an industrial wasteland, no way home. And Richard now had access to everything. Maya pulled out her phone, called 911. I need police at Hartman Industrial Storage on Graffiti Avenue. There's a break-in in progress. 3 men, armed. While waiting for police, she opened Frank's ledger on her phone, looking for anything she might have missed, and found it. In the very back, tucked into a pocket she hadn't noticed. A letter addressed to Richard, never sent, dated 6 months before Frank's death. Her hands shook as she read. The letter revealed everything. Frank had known Richard was searching for the warehouse, had watched him break in twice. But more than that, it revealed there was a 3rd level, below the art vault, accessible only with a code. That's where I kept what truly matters, Frank had written. Not treasure, but truth. Evidence of every unethical deal I made, and evidence that your father was part of it too. Maya's breath caught. Richard's father had helped Frank acquire the paintings, had profited from desperate families' losses. And if that truth came out, it wouldn't just destroy Frank's reputation. It would destroy the entire Hartman family legacy. That's why Richard was so desperate. This wasn't about inheriting wealth. This was about burying evidence. In the distance, police sirens wailed. Maya watched from behind the factory as cops surrounded the warehouse, arrested Richard and his men for breaking and entering. Richard would be charged, detained, at least temporarily. But Maya knew this was far from over, because somewhere beneath that art vault was a 3rd level she hadn't found yet. And whatever secrets it held were dangerous enough that Richard was willing to risk everything to keep them buried. The police kept Richard for 6 hours before his lawyers got him released. Breaking and entering, attempted theft. But with his resources and connections, he'd be out on bail by morning. Maya knew she had maybe 12 hours, maybe less. She had to find the 3rd level before Richard did. That night, after Lily was asleep, Maya sat at her kitchen table with Frank's letter to Richard. Evidence of every unethical deal I made, and evidence that your father was part of it too. She read the letter again, and again, looking for clues to the code. Frank had been deliberate about everything else. The octagonal key, the pneumatic hatch, the emergency tunnel. He wouldn't have made the final code random. It would mean something. Something personal. She thought about the dates stamped on the platinum ingots. The acquisition dates in the art ledger, Frank's birth year, his wife's death. Nothing felt right. Then she remembered something. Frank's letter had mentioned Richard's father specifically. Your father was part of it too. Richard's father, Frank's brother. Maya pulled out her phone, searched for obituaries. Found it. Thomas Hartman. Died the 15th of March 2003. She tried the date as a code in her head, the 15th of March 2003. That could work. But Frank would have made it harder than that, more obscure. She kept reading the letter to Richard. One line stood out. Your father took commissions on 3 pieces. He knew what we were doing, and he profited anyway. 3 pieces. Maya opened the art ledger on her phone, scrolled through the entries. Found 3 paintings marked with a small asterisk, the only 3 in the entire collection with that symbol. A Monet, purchased the 12th of June 1979. A Degas, purchased the 8th of October 1980. A Cézanne, purchased the 3rd of February 1981. She stared at the dates. The 12th of June 2079. The 8th of October 2080. The 3rd of February 2081. Was the code made from combining them somehow? She tried different combinations in her head. Nothing felt right. Then she saw it. Not the full dates, just the days. 12, 8, 3. She grabbed her keys and ran. Carmen's apartment was dark when Maya knocked. It took 3 tries before Carmen answered, wearing pajamas and looking annoyed. It's 11 p.m. This better be. I need you to watch Lily, please. Carmen saw Maya's face and didn't argue. Go. Maya drove to the warehouse. The streets were empty. The industrial zone looked like a ghost town under the streetlights. Inside, she descended to the art vault. Her flashlight beam swept across the paintings that had haunted her dreams for weeks. $30 million, family's lost heritage, Frank's shame. And, somewhere below, the truth. She searched the vault carefully, looking for anything that might hide another hatch. Found it behind a false wall panel, a keypad with 12 buttons. Her hands shook as she entered the code. 1283. A click. The panel slid open. Below, a small room, more like a vault within a vault. Maya descended the short ladder. The space was maybe 10 feet square. Filing cabinets lined the walls, a small desk in the corner. No treasure, just paper. She opened the first filing cabinet. Contracts, receipts, correspondence, all proving Frank's art dealings were legal but exploitative. But the second cabinet made her stomach drop. Letters between Frank and his brother Thomas, discussing the paintings, negotiating commissions, sharing information about desperate families who might sell. The Kowalski widow is in dire straits, one letter read. Lost her husband last year, no income. I suggested she might consider selling her grandmother's Degas. She doesn't know what it's worth. We can offer 10 kelvins. It's worth 200 kelvins easy. Maya felt sick. But the third cabinet was worse. Evidence that Richard had known about this for years. Email printouts, dating back to 2015, between Richard and his father before Thomas died. The old man's hiding something, Richard had written. I've searched the warehouse twice. There's art down there. I know it. When he dies, I'll make sure it comes to us, not some charity bullshit he's been talking about. Thomas's response. Be patient. Let me handle Frank. We built this collection together. It should stay in the family. More emails, more plans, discussions about challenging Frank's mental competency if he tried to leave the collection to anyone else. And then Maya found the final piece. A letter from Frank, dated 2 months before his death. Maya, if you've found this room, you've read enough to understand what I was, what my brother was, what Richard is becoming. I watched you from afar for years, saw how you struggled, how you sacrificed for your daughter, how you worked 3 jobs and never complained, never asked the family for help, even when you needed it desperately. You reminded me of the families I exploited, desperate, proud, doing whatever it took to survive. That's when I understood what I had to do. I can't undo the past, can't return the years those families lost. But I can give someone like them the choice I never gave them. The platinum upstairs, that's real wealth. Sell it, keep it, use it to build the life you deserve. No one will question it. It was legally purchased for industrial use, clean money. But the art that's different, those paintings were bought from people's pain. They should go back, not to museums who'll lock them away, back to the families, or their descendants. Let them decide what to do with their own heritage. I've documented everything. Names, addresses where they lived when I bought from them. Some are gone now. But some have children, grandchildren. Find them. Return what was taken. Not because it's legally required, but because it's right. I'm trusting you with this because you understand something Richard never will, that some things matter more than money. Your daughter Lily, she watches you. She learns from every choice you make. What will you teach her? That wealth matters most, or that integrity does? I chose wrong my whole life. I'm giving you the chance to choose differently. The platinum is yours to keep. The art is yours to return. The choice is yours to make. I believe in you, Maya. I always have. Uncle Frank. Maya sat on the cold floor, tears streaming down her face. She understood now. Frank hadn't left her a test, he'd left her a gift. The platinum $10 million was real inheritance, clean, legal, hers to keep without guilt. He'd known she needed it, known Lily needed it. The art was different. That was the burden, the responsibility, the chance to do what he couldn't. But he'd given her both, so she wouldn't have to choose between survival and integrity. She could keep the platinum, have the life she'd dreamed of, and still return the art, do the right thing. For the first time in weeks, Maya could breathe. She wasn't trapped, wasn't being forced to choose between her daughter's future and her conscience. Frank had given her a way to have both. She climbed back up to the art vault, looked at the paintings with new eyes. These weren't her burden alone anymore. They were her purpose. She pulled out her phone, called Dr. Moss. I'm ready, Maya said. I want to contact the FBI. I want to return the art to the families. What about your cousin, the Will Challenge? Let him try. Maya's voice was steady. I have evidence he's been trying to steal from the estate for years. And I'm keeping the platinum, which is worth enough to fight any legal battle he wants. She could hear Dr. Moss smiling through the phone. I'll make the calls. This is going to change a lot of lives, Maya. I know. After hanging up, Maya sat in the vault one more time, thinking about Frank, about the families who'd sold these paintings, about Lily sleeping safely at Carmen's, about the choice she was making, not because she had to, but because she could, because Frank had given her something more valuable than $30 million. He'd given her the freedom to do what was right without sacrificing her daughter's future. And that was the real treasure. The FBI art crime team arrived 3 days later. They authenticated every piece, verified Frank's documentation, traced the original owners through decades-old records and international databases. Dr. Moss worked alongside them, her expertise turning Frank's careful notes into a roadmap home for 47 stolen histories. Richard's will challenge collapsed in court. Cortez presented the surveillance footage Richard breaking into the warehouse, repeatedly, over years. Then, The evidence from the third level. Emails proving conspiracy. Plans to steal estate assets. Documented attempts to manipulate Frank's mental competency evaluation. The judge dismissed the case, ordered Richard to pay legal fees. But more than that, federal prosecutors were now interested in Richard's activities. Tax evasion, attempted theft, fraud. Maya watched him leave the courthouse, his expensive suit somehow looking cheaper now. He didn't look at her. The platinum sold for $10.2 million at auction. After taxes and legal fees, Maya had $7.8 million. More money than she'd ever imagined. Enough to change everything. But it was the art returns that changed her in ways money couldn't. The first family she met was the Kowalskis. An elderly woman, daughter of the widow Frank, had exploited, flew in from Chicago with her grandson. They stood in the warehouse together, the Degas painting between them. "My grandmother sold this in 1980, the woman said, tears streaming. "She needed money for my father's surgery." A man offered her $10,000, told her it was very generous for an old painting. She touched the frame gently. She never stopped regretting it, said she'd sold her mother's soul for medical bills. "I'm sorry," Maya whispered. "Don't be." The woman looked at her. "You didn't take it. You gave it back. That's everything." There were more families, more reunions. A Holocaust survivor's grandchildren receiving the Monet their grandfather had been forced to sell while fleeing Poland. An Italian family discovering the Cézanne they thought lost in a fire had been hidden in Detroit for 40 years. Each return was emotional. Each one felt like closing a wound that had been open for decades. Dr. Moss helped coordinate everything. Museums offered to display the pieces. Families chose what felt right. Some kept the paintings, some sold them, some donated them to institutions with their ancestors' names attached. Maya didn't keep any, but she photographed every reunion, every tear, every moment when heritage came home. 6 months later, Maya stood in the living room of her new house. Not a mansion, not something ostentatious. A 3-bedroom in a good school district, yard for Lily, garage where Maya had set up a woodworking shop, the hobby she'd never had time or money for before. Lily ran through the hallway, new sneakers squeaking on the hardwood floors. No duct tape flowers, just bright purple laces she'd chosen herself. "Mom, Carmen's here." Carmen walked in carrying a pie. She'd quit the diner after Maya had offered her a job managing the foundation. The Frank Hartman Redemption Fund, established with $2 million from Maya's inheritance, dedicated to helping families in crisis rent assistance, medical bills, emergency support. The kind of help Maya had needed for years and never received. "How's the first week feel?" Carmen asked. Maya looked around their home, real home, with furniture that matched and appliances that worked, and rooms that didn't smell like mold. "Strange," she admitted. "Good strange." She'd kept working at the diner part-time, not because she needed the money anymore, but because she liked the routine, liked the regulars, liked remembering where she came from. Dr. Moss had helped her enroll back in community college. Art history degree. She'd finished what she started 15 years ago. And Lily was thriving. New school, robotics club, friends whose parents didn't whisper about the single mum who couldn't afford school supplies. That evening, Maya and Lily drove to the warehouse one last time. It had been sold to a developer, would become artist studios and affordable housing. They stood at the gates where they'd stood 7 months ago. "Do you remember what you asked me that first day?" Maya said. Lily nodded. "Why Uncle Frank left us this. What do you think now?" Lily was quiet, thoughtful in the way 9-year-olds sometimes are. "I think he wanted to see if we'd do the right thing, even when it was hard." "And did we?" "Yeah," Lily squeezed her hand. "We did." They stood there, As the sun set over Detroit, the warehouse looking less like a tombstone now, more like a monument. To Frank's attempt at redemption. To families reunited with their heritage. To the choice between wealth and integrity, and the discovery that sometimes, if you're very lucky, you don't have to choose at all. Maya thought about Richard, probably meeting with lawyers about his federal charges. About the families who'd cried in her arms as paintings came home. About Lily's new shoes, and Carmen's new purpose, and her own new life. About the duct tape flower that had started this whole journey, a symbol of making do, of covering wounds, of surviving despite everything. They didn't need duct tape anymore. But Maya had saved that old pair of shoes, kept them in her closet as a reminder of where they'd been, of what they'd survived, of the choice she'd made when the warehouse door opened and the universe asked, "What kind of person will you be?" She'd chosen to be someone her daughter could be proud of. And that, she realized, was worth more than all the treasure in the world. "Come on, baby," Maya said. "Let's go home." They walked to their reliable Subaru, not flashy, not expensive, just safe, and theirs. As they drove away, Maya checked the rearview mirror one last time. The warehouse disappeared behind them, and for the first time in her adult life, Maya wasn't looking back with regret. She was looking forward with hope. 5 years later, Maya stood in the gallery of the Hartman Center for Art Repatriation, the non-profit she'd helped Dr. Moss establish, dedicated to researching looted art, connecting works with rightful owners, educating people about ethical collecting. The opening exhibit told Frank's story, the warehouse, the paintings, the families reunited with their heritage. But it also told Maya's story, the choice she'd made, the fortune she'd returned, the integrity that cost nothing and gained everything. Visitors moved through the space quietly, reading plaques, studying photographs of reunions, families holding paintings their grandparents had lost. Lily, now 14, volunteered at the center on weekends, helping digitize provenance records, already talking about studying art restoration in college. She'd inherited something more valuable than money from that warehouse. She'd inherited the knowledge that doing right, even when it's hard, is the only way to truly live free. Maya watched a young mother with her daughter pause in front of a photograph. The image showed Maya and the Kowalski family, the moment the Degas came home. "See, baby," the mother said softly. She could have kept everything, but she chose to be good instead. Maya wanted to correct her. She hadn't chosen one over the other. She'd discovered they weren't opposites at all. Integrity and security, morality and comfort, doing right and living well. Frank had given her the rarest gift, proof that sometimes, if you're brave enough to make the hard choice, the universe finds a way to reward you anyway. Not always with money, but with something better. Peace, purpose, the ability to meet your own eyes in the mirror. Outside, the Detroit skyline glowed in the afternoon Sunday. Maya thought about the warehouse, long gone now, transformed into artist studios where people created beauty instead of hiding it. She thought about Richard, serving his sentence, his children estranged, his legacy ruined. She thought about the families, 47 paintings returned, 47 wounds closed. And she thought about that first day, standing at those rusted gates, Lily's hand in hers, both of them terrified and hopeful and broke, looking at a building everyone said was worthless. Not knowing it held the key to everything. Lily appeared beside her, taller now, confident in ways Maya had never been at 14. "Ready to go home?" Maya asked. Lily nodded, then paused. "Mom, do you ever regret it, giving back the art?" Maya looked at her daughter, really looked. At the girl who'd once covered holes in her shoes with duct tape and never complained, who now stood tall, educated, secure, kind. "Not once," Maya said. And she meant it. Because some inheritances aren't measured in dollars. They're measured in the people we become when tested, in the choices we make when no one's watching, in the legacy we leave for the ones who come after. Maya had inherited a warehouse full of secrets. But what she'd really inherited was a question. What kind of person will you be? And every day since, she'd answered the same way. The right kind. What would you do if you inherited a fortune built on someone else's pain? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button tomorrow. We have another incredible tale of ordinary people making extraordinary choices. And remember, the most valuable things we inherit aren't things at all. They're the courage to do what's right, even when the world tells us we're fools for trying. Because in the end, the only treasure that matters is the one you can carry in your heart.